You didn't know who Prosecutor Gavin was before that case. What kind of fan doesn't know the lead vocalist's name? Why are these flashbacks necessary? And boy, is this episode rife with these unnecessary flashbacks. This is just the first. You know what? Let's just send them all at once just to get them out of the way. But mind you, only the pointless ones. What? How does one speak a language like this? Allow me to introduce Machi Tobai. He is blind. Ha! 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 As painful as it is to have to constantly watch this music video throughout the second day of the trial, when you see it the first time, you gotta admit, it's actually pretty cool to watch, and the song's great too. One thing though, why is it that sometimes we see JPEGs, but then other times we actually see 3D models? Also, why can you hear drumming and bass accompaniment? I thought they said only vocals, guitar, and piano. There's 20 minutes till the last part of the show. How many breaks does this band need? It's only 3 acts, dude. Apollo Justice! Were you the one who tried to torch me? Where did that accusation come from? Well, let's try to talk to him at least. I'm not sure that's the best move right now. It's not, but the game's all like, too bad, talk to him. Almost time for the 3rd act of the night. Oh, there's more? You already knew there was! Any special reason the game requires me to examine Lemurar's dressing room door before the story can progress? He's alive! Isn't that a first? We got here quick enough to hear his final words. The witness is siren. By which he means Lemurar, but considering what was going on when the murder took place, how could he have seen her? How could he have known that Lemurar really was nearby when he was shot? Somehow, I don't see us getting back to that crime scene anytime soon. Except that's one of the first places we go in our investigation. It's not healthy to envy the young, Emma. It's not about envy, it's about tampering with evidence. Note to self, Emma lacks a sense of humor. Use caution. Note to self, Apollo lacks common sense. Eek! Go ahead, Apollo, you first. Me? No, you should go first, Trucy, really. Apollo! You don't shove a lady's face into a corpse! You don't need so much power to kill at such close range. It's overkill. No, it's psychotic. There's another thing about a gun this big. It puts a lot of strain on the shooter. Strain? Yeah, say, if you were to fire this revolver, the recoil would probably dislocate your shoulder. But a shrimpy 14-year-old could use it no problem, right? Also, from experiences I've read online, the recoil didn't really sound that bad. It makes me wonder if it's an exaggeration by Emma just to show how powerful a .45 caliber gun is. Sorry, but could you wait here till I get back? But if I do that, we can't get more story! And then there was that performance just now! What was that all about? This seemingly pointless affair actually becomes slightly relevant to the long run, unfortunately. How can you come to this concert and not know about the Gaviners? It's not surprising. Why, even our ancestors knew nothing of America's existence once. I know America exists. That's precisely why he said our ancestors. Each member is connected to the police somehow. The police? The real police? By day they pack heat, but by night they heat up the stage. By day those lips interrogate, by night they sing songs of unrequited passion. Every vow we break, every step we take, they'll be watching us. I'm more concerned with the other criminal, the one who kills people. You want help on the case? Then help me with mine. You don't need my help. You already know how the sliders work. In fact, we shouldn't have had to hear the argument. All Clavier needed to do was adjust the sliders if he heard something even a little bit off and figure it out from there. Also, why even debate this during a murder investigation? You simply choose the section of the song you wish to hear on the uppermost bar. You mean scrub bar? And the demonstration shows us using the buttons below the scrub bar to choose the section. You will tell us which instrument, which part is the guilty party. But how? Apollo... What are these letters at the bottom? I've never seen these before. It must be her native tongue, Borganian. But that looks nothing like all the other Borganian text we've seen the rest of the episode. The Republic of Borgania. That's in Northern Europe, right? I've never even heard of it. And little wonder, too. Also, you say Northern Europe, yet Lemurar looks more Middle Eastern, and the spoken language looks like the Egyptian hieroglyphs, while the written language looks like Arabic or Hebrew. I'm also not allowed to speak anything but Borganian in public. But singing in English is perfectly acceptable, right? Makes a lot of sense. Even during the investigation, the time seems a bit overestimated. Though that could just be me. I mean, it was 9:30 p.m. when we found Latouche, which would mean it would have been 3 hours after the body was discovered. But considering everything we went through after that, it just doesn't sound right. Well, it's gone. Utterly gone. What's gone? The body's stupid. What else? Who's stupid? Enough with the pronoun game! Why did they arrest Machi? Why? Why indeed? The murder weapon was a .45 caliber revolver. According to Emma, the kickback would put a lot of strain on the shooter. Yet Machi, a 14-year-old shrimpy boy, doesn't look like he suffered any injuries, minor or major. All to further demonstrate the flawed legal system some more, which is not a bad idea, just executed badly in this episode. Hi, maybe you could tell me about last night?
Borginian text.
That was pretty crappy of Clavier to send Apollo over to see Machi without an interpreter. But it's extra crappy of Machi to still pretend to not speak English, despite requesting an English speaker. I mean, granted, the argument is that the crime followed the lyrics of the guitar serenade, which were only known in English, and so his fluency in the English language would mean he knew the crime followed the song. But even without that knowledge, the police still have him under suspicion for the murder. Maybe Lemurar can help? But didn't Prosecutor Gavin say she was with him? Yeah, but that doesn't mean you can't retrieve her once she's free from the questioning. In fact, why didn't you just do that? Forget what I said about Clavier and Machi just before. It's Apollo who's doing some crappy things before the trial. No gallery chattering for this either? Is that going to be a habit? Why don't grown-ups ever just say what's on their mind instead of pretending?
She's looking at me with something like disgust.
But why?
If we're talking about a .45 caliber revolver, we must assume that the killer was adept at the weapon's use. In which case, the next logical question to ask would be why the prosecution believes that person to be Machi Tobai, other than the fact that he was the only one who could have exited the room without being seen by anyone running in. Now, don't blame yourself. Things like this happen. I've made even bigger mistakes in my career, you know. Among which includes confusing a cardboard badge for a real one. I examined the scene and determined that only the defendant could have done it. Assuming the weapon was not a .45 caliber revolver, but it was. But we're still gonna suspect him just for the fact that he was there and the room was empty when the people that heard the shot ran in. He's totally trained at using a large caliber gun. We didn't even have to investigate to answer that question. He can totally do it without hurting himself. The fact that Apollo's not allowed to present it without getting a penalty, not to mention no rebuttal to his findings, is just poor writing. It's clear the police want this wrapped up as soon as possible. Why not give them the pleasure of shoving that in Apollo's face as he tries to rebut the accusation against Machi in a perfectly logical way? When you say rock, are you referring perhaps to this rock and roll music that's so popular these days? What do you mean these days? Rock and roll has been popular for decades. All we know is what our forehead says he said. It's no testimony, especially since it comes from the defense attorney himself. But it's the truth! He said it! I even told you about it, but apparently you ignore me completely. It's my policy to fully investigate everything I deem relevant. Clearly, this rookie lawyer thinks he can tell me how to do my job. I literally can't! You have no right to claim conjecture on me right that! I told you about the victim's final words before a suspect was arrested! I too thought to call her as a witness, but I did not. I had a reason, of course. What's that? Lemurar suffers from amnesia. The murder only took place 2 nights ago. I think she'd be fine. Apparently, I'm supposed to use the bracelet on this statement after presenting the brooch to Lemerar's statement about not returning backstage after the second set, but I can already note a contradiction here using this diagram. If Lemurar only looked into the room for a glance, there's no way she should have seen the corpse. Not because of the wall, but because the way the door opened should have blocked off her view. But nope, that door is important for a different reason. For now, you have to perceive. I believe Machi stole the body because of some lyrics. He moved the body to match Lemerar's song. I'm sorry, I thought it was stupid that the police thought a shrimpy kid was capable of shooting a .45 caliber gun without hurting himself. But no! This is what's stupid about the case. Now we're arguing a shrimpy kid dragged a hulking giant of a man all the way from the dressing room to the stage, which is a floor above the dressing room, by the way. This entails dragging the corpse out the door of the dressing room, across the hall, up a level, over to the stage, then turning him over on his back to place the guitar, then raising the stage platform before climbing to the top and lying down. Never mind the fact that it would have been impossible for him to do this without being seen. Heck, I don't even know how the real killer managed that, but unless Machi's been eating his spinach, he shouldn't even be able to get Latouche out of the dressing room. We've heard one song and dance, let's go on to the next, the cross-examination.
I'm not sure I'm going to be doing much singing.
So you'll be dancing then, like your idol Herlock Sholmes? If the shooter wasn't used to firing such a large weapon, why it could dislocate their shoulder? Exactly. The defendant, Machi Tobai, is, as you can see, tiny. It's not so hard to picture him firing the gun and missing entirely. The kickback alone would throw off his aim. Why would you argue that? You're just proving the prosecution's case by being just as stupid as the police force. Just say that because he has no injuries on him that he can't be the killer. The judge just got done talking about how the shooter could suffer severe injuries by firing such a large caliber weapon. Right. Go for it, Apollo. Huh? I have to do the test? You just have to spray the luminol on it. Simple. If it was so simple, why don't you do it? I received word that the defendant could, in fact, see just before the trial began. It seemed too much of a bother to tell you. Is that the real reason, or was it because the point didn't become relevant? I just realized, why wasn't Apollo the first to point out the defendant's supposed blindness? It concerns that 45 caliber revolver, the murder weapon. Apparently it belonged to Roman Latouche. That just makes it even more impossible for Machi to have been the killer. There's no way he could have taken it from the victim without a nasty fight. Well, time's a wasting, as they say. Let's investigate. Except before we can get anywhere, we have to talk to Trucy, then talk to Valent when he enters the office. I was wondering, what is Interpol anyway? Huh? Interpol? They're the guys who catch international criminals. Why can't they just call them International Police instead of making up some silly name? Because actually, Interpol is the International Criminal Police Organization. Look, Interpol sounds like it's a shorter name, okay? Ah! It's you, Uncle Valent! Whoa, wait a minute. When we first came across him, she didn't seem to know him, but suddenly she does. Was she pretending to not know before? Why?
And could you please stop smirking like that?
You thought literally the same thing less than 20 seconds ago! It's been a while, Miss Trucy. 7 years to be exact. My, how you've grown. Good to see you again, Uncle Valent. You look exactly the same. No, he doesn't. Once upon a time, Troop Gramarye included 2 grand magicians. Myself, Valent Gramarye, and my partner, Zach Gramarye. So we're just gonna pretend Magnifica and Thalassa never existed. My other reason for coming here today was this. That's a videotape? I don't blame Trucy for being surprised to see 1990s technology, and unlike the situation with the cell phones in the original trilogy, I know for a fact it was not because of the time this game came out. It was 2007. People were already switching over to DVDs. Oh crap. We have to sit through the whole thing all over again before we can add the freaking tape to the court record? Why not just let us check it out later whenever we need to? But ooh boy, just wait till we get back in the courtroom. I had to present the friggin' tape just to get anywhere in the story. That stunt in the middle of the song there. I didn't see a stunt. What about Lemurar vanishing and reappearing? Oh, that? I guess I'm so used to seeing that happen that I didn't even notice. Come on, Trucy, you're not that sheltered like Regina Barry. Your voice training. This is the perfect place for it. In a crowded area? I never imagined the gunshots might be real, and I was in quite a hurry myself. I left the scene at once. But why were you in such a hurry? The reason could clear Machi's name. Don't you want that? Screw contractual obligations! You've heard constantly that the gunshots were heard during the 3rd act, and you heard gunshots earlier than that. Say something! So, can I put it on? Attached? I'm not some kind of robot, Apollo. I thought the walkie-talkie thing was weird, but this is on a whole other level. Is Apollo saying this stuff out loud whenever he collects new pieces of evidence? Like, he's actually saying, headset attached to Trucy. Just how meta could this game get? It just bugs me to think that little kid outsmarted me, and it makes him even more suspicious now that we know he can see. He could have seen the air duct, and he could have shot that revolver. Not without sustaining an injury, he couldn't have. Are we ever going to talk about that? Why can't we have a normal, straightforward killing once in a while in this country? The first turnabout, the lost turnabout, recipe for turnabout. That revolver really was something else. I wonder if someone as little as me could even fire it. Hey, they think a 14-year-old shrimpy kid could have done it. That shrimpy kid looks like he's shrimpier than you. So, what did you think of the trial today? Phew, I'm glad he doesn't understand English after all. I'm not glad that he's pretending to not understand English. Once we learn that, it just makes moments like this extra infuriating. Doesn't he want to go free? You don't have to tell me about the Burgundian cocoon smuggling, just give me something. Man, I never even talked to that old windbag. How could she possibly identify me? By hearing you talk to someone else? I tried to stop him, really, but he forced me to. Hey, you were the one digging for a scandal, Miss Reporter. Does every assistant in the Ace Attorney series feel the need to try and pass the blame for their eavesdropping onto the protagonist at least once, despite being the curious one themselves? Well, I haven't exactly seen that with my eye, I don't think. No wonder she's the best assistant. Since getting back from the trial, my phone has been ringing off the hook. How does it feel to take a man's life with a song? Have you ever hummed a man all the way to death row? Do you think you could sing for me over the phone? It is endless! Endless! Thanks to the case you made today, of course. Oh, that was all Apollo's idea. What? Lemurar was my invited guest, so it is a rather delicate situation. You understand how much I want to solve this case, quickly if possible. Well, you could start by not suspecting Machi and think of other possibilities regarding the circumstances of Latus's death. No matter, I shall never sing that song again. By which I mean not for 15 months. Thanks for dropping by, F4head. What started off as a dig at Apollo has just become a regular nickname? Obviously, Clavier has respect for Apollo by this point, so what gives? That is why I try to at least remain simple inside. And I keep a simple goal, to discover the truth. You want to discover the truth? You can always consult Edgeworth on how to do that. This is the waiting room for the Hottie Clinic changed to the Hickfield Clinic. No wonder that pervert was still there.
Borginian speech.
It's a cure for incuritis. A cure for incuritis? Let's see. According to my sources, the latest diagnosis of incuritis was... You aren't the witness today, are you, Uncle Valen? A preposterous proposition! How could I stand to stand upon the stand? Why, my secrets would be free for the plucking! Okay, we'll at least be on standby in case we deduce that the killing must have happened sooner than it was first proposed and we have given enough logical reasoning to believe it. Then you can come to the stand and explain the trick. Don't just give us a hint before screwing off! So we don't get the chattering courtroom here either? Not even the gavel this time? Are they trying to kill that tradition off? I hope not. The defense calls defendant Machi Tobai to the stand. Oh, what? But he doesn't speak English. We'll use an interpreter. Interpreter? I'm afraid you'll have to look elsewhere. I only speak a few phrases, such as I love you and where is the toilet? And yet you translated some of Lemerar's words flawlessly during yesterday's proceedings. He says that because the lyrics are in English, he does not understand them. That was all she needed to say during the first day of the trial. She just needed to say Machi doesn't understand English. I mean, we don't know yet he actually does, but this could have easily helped his case. Before he eventually heard it again anyway. Witness, is this true? Do you understand English? Yes, a little only. Dang it, Machi, if you had been honest about your English speaking the first day we visited you at the detention center, our defense would have been easier to manage. But no, you had to make it as difficult for us as possible despite requesting our services yourself. I can understand before the arrest, but not after. All we've been doing is unearthing some shocking truths about Machi, yet they say it took an hour 23 minutes to do so. We're supposed to say he went into the room to find the body and then he heard the shots?
That was going to go over well in court. Not.
Apollo, you're his defense. You're supposed to believe whatever he says, even lies. That's what Daddy always told me. I'll just pretend you misheard him, every time. No need to pretend she absolutely did mishear. That doesn't sound like something Phoenix Wright would say, especially to his daughter. Did they get the time right for once? They set a recess for 5 minutes and it's actually 5 minutes? Does that mean I'm removing Sins from my least favorite episode? I'm not sure I'm ready for the world to come to an end. Is something wrong?
I know I said hold it, but she's saying the same thing she said before.
Mr. Justice? Sorry, it's nothing. Please continue with your testimony. Never mind the fact that I said hold it, all because of some idiot player that's just trying to get as much dialogue as possible. It would have been quite simple to be heard on the stage from that dressing room. Oh wait, you like evidence, don't you? How about this? The freaking headphones you guys have been using during the concert. We're accusing Darian, right? You're getting too ahead of yourself. Is it another one of those newfangled phones? This is an igniter.
What phone looks like this?
Apollo Justice would be amazing at CinemaSins. The guitar caught fire during Lemerar's song. Indeed, yet the shooting happened during the third set. The two are utterly unrelated. Go to Edgeworth. Maybe ask the defense how the two are related before assuming they're not. At the time of the crime, the small window at the scene was closed. How could Lemurar have heard a voice through it? We're talking about the crime happening during the second set, yet you're claiming what you did for the third set. That's not the same thing. She said she's a Borgidian, unfamiliar with our language. It's not a stretch to imagine she called this air vent a small window. Now you've done it. You've gone beyond ridiculous and into ludicrous. Just a little bit more and we'll have gone to plaid. But I still think it's Clavier who's lost the bleeps, the sweeps, and the creeps. It's not all he's lost, though. You're quite sure? Yes. Why would I lie about the time? Why didn't you tell us this yesterday? No one asked me. I thought you all knew. We've all been speaking under the assumption that the shooting happened during the third set. You heard nothing of that? If you really did think we knew the killing took place during the second set, why not just say Machi was on stage the whole time? And don't tell me it's because you thought no one would believe you. A sin for every time this footage plays from here on out because of how constant it is. Lemurar is incapable of actually vanishing, let alone teleportation, so the only explanation is that she was hidden from view, and during that time she moved to the back of the forum. Apollo! What, Trucy? It's not nice to reveal a magician's secrets, and it's against the rules. Do you want to clear Machi's name or not? I knew about the vanishing act, of course, yet I had no idea of the route that would be used. Why did that magician tell me? Magicians only reveal details of their acts on a need-to-know basis. And we definitely needed to know while Machi was under suspicion. Also, this is why Clavier needed to consult Edgeworth on how to use logic and deduction. He could have known about Lemerar's route through the vents much sooner. Also, this is as good a time as any to ask this. The Gremories were at the center of Clavier's first trial as a prosecutor, which, as we all know, was a huge disaster. Why would Clavier bother associating himself with a Gremory for his concert? Well, technically, he already was when he worked with Lemurar, but he couldn't have known who she really was, right? Not to mention the fact that Lemurar had amnesia, so she couldn't remember who she really was anyway. You need to explain how Lemurar was able to teleport like she did, or I'm throwing your case out with the bathwater. Ugh. Why do I get picked on? It's Lemurar who isn't going with the program here. Screw contractual obligations! 2 minutes? Yes, it can be done in 1 minute if you are running. Running? In that cramped, dark tunnel above the ceiling? Haha, Mr. Attorney, have you forgotten? Dark or lit, it makes no difference to me. Yeah, but that vent is still cramped. Still don't know how you could have ran in there. 2 hours and 12 minutes after the recess ended. That seems like a bit too much time, don't you think? You believed in me? Not really. Huh? I just thought that I'd make a cooler entrance than say, Hiya. From now on, just stick with Hiya. A piece of jewelry and a lyrical blunder? There are plenty of other ways to explain these things. The flaming guitar, too. Oh yeah? Such as... These fragments were found under the sofa at the scene of the crime, actually. Under the sofa? Hey Apollo, that's where we found that little device thingy! Then why didn't Emma show those to us earlier? Again, they got the time right. 15-minute recess, and it's actually 15 minutes later. Guess that's another sin deduction. Lying must be a national pastime in Borginia. And wherever you're from, Mr. Justice. Ha! Is Darian calling Apollo a liar? What lie did he tell exactly? In the first place, she never heard my voice. She forgot the words because she heard gunshots? As if! First of all, Darian has just as much evidence Lemurar didn't hear him as Lemurar has that she did. Second, he's involved with the show. Did he really not think we'd check the mixing board to confirm her statement about a gunshot? What exactly is this, device thingy? A new variety of gramophone, perhaps?
Come on, we just used this! And don't get me started on gramophone!
Actually, Apollo, I don't think he's too far off base in saying gramophone. Both of these items do the same thing. Well, okay, maybe not entirely true. A gramophone can't break up songs into separate parts, but still. How are you supposed to hear gunshots back in that dressing room out on stage? Darian's really not making himself look good by making statements like this, despite the fact that he's involved with the show. Man, you can barely hear that! How do you know it's a gun? Well, what else could it be? Care to give us examples? He never does he? Weren't 2 bullets fired from this weapon? Lemurar was moving through the air vent, Your Honor. She must not have been close enough for her mic to catch the first shot. What the heck do you mean? The sounds of the gun should still be traveling through the vent to reach her mic, right? As we have learned, even the shooter doesn't go unscarred with a revolver that size. The kickback is enough to dislocate your shoulder if you're an amateur. You keep saying that, yet this whole time you've still been hounding on Machi despite the fact that he doesn't have any injuries whatsoever. Exactly which piece of your evidence is decisive again? You got a little noise on the tape that could be anything, and you have an alleged guitar cue missed due to a .45 caliber kickback. They're both decisive, unless you can explain what else that noise on the tape could be. Seriously, just do it! You made the claim! What else could the noise that Lemurar heard be? Also, all we have to do is check your arm for injury to prove whether or not you used a .45 caliber gun. Why does this episode love to overcomplicate things just to demonstrate the flawed legal system the game works under? Come on, why would I even want to kill that manager? Ah, the classic motive card that apparently works as long as you can't prove a motive, even though motive should be the least of our concerns when it comes to proving someone's guilt. But this is Ace Attorney where nothing else stands without motive. Surely this has nothing to do with a motive for killing Mr. Latouche. Does it? It does! Wait, I mean, I think it does. Apollo! He only needed one hand to press that switch. He could play the piano with the other. Ha! What, so you're some kind of piano savant? Actually, no. Then what do you know? You can't play a part like that with one hand. You're a second guitarist, not keyboardist, so what do you know? Man! How many times do I have to listen to the same thing? We only have to listen to parts of the song 2 more times. Just hang in there. It'll all be over before you know it. Don't get me wrong, your case is solid. The facts all check out. But even now, you have yet to show us a single piece of decisive evidence. No, I do not! Everything I presented together is clearly decisive evidence of Machi's innocence and Darian's guilt! What exactly would be considered decisive evidence? If there was a security camera in the dressing room that caught the moment the crime was committed, would that make you happy, you corrupt legal representatives? 1,000 facts might point toward the same conclusion, but without decisive evidence, it's not proof. That's the rule under our current legal system. It's such a crappy rule, though! The facts I presented are the evidence! Whose bright idea was to introduce such... You know what? Forget those 20 cents I took away just because I was suckered in by them keeping the recess times consistent. I'm adding those back and multiplying them by 5! The moment this igniter of yours turns out to be a dud is the moment this cross-examination ends. Assuming you only have 1 bar of confidence gauge left, that is. Maybe the law doesn't allow it. But who's going to think you're really innocent after hearing this trial? I'm pretty sure the public gallery watching already doesn't think he's innocent, and that's perfect reason for a need to change. I'll get you out of the country. I'll set you up someplace. A hidden mansion, real nice. You want a house made out of cookies? Or no, a house made out of pianos? Darian's just sounding like a creep now. Should another case of this sort surface, we may have to consider an alternate system by which to administer justice. You mean 12 angry men of the public who gather to listen to the proceedings and make the judgments to determine the outcome? The system that's been in place in America's judicial system for over 200 years? No, it hasn't really been 3 hours since the last recess ended. It just felt that way with the video constantly playing.